off the third septic infection in as many months. It was from my cousin Rachel. A photo of the family reunion happening at my parents' lake house. Everyone smiling with cocktails, the sunset golden behind them. The caption read, "Family complete." Well, almost. Emily's having one of her episodes again. 43 people had liked it. I stared at the photo through the fog of antibiotics and immunosuppressants, my PAC line pulling uncomfortably as I shifted in the hospital bed. One of her episodes. That's what they'd called my autoimmune disease for the past 7 years. Episodes. Like I was a dramatic television show rather than a 29-year-old woman whose immune system was slowly destroying her kidneys, liver, and lungs. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. "Sweetheart, everyone's asking about you. I told them you're resting at home. No need to worry them with hospital details." I knew exactly what that meant. Don't embarrass the family by being sick during their celebration. Don't be inconvenient. Don't exist too loudly in your suffering. Dr. Reeves. A nurse poked her head in. "Dr. Martinez is here to check your labs." Dr. Sofia Martinez entered with her usual brisk efficiency, tablet in hand. She was one of the leading immunologists in the country and the only reason I was still alive. "Emily, your inflammation markers are finally dropping. The modified treatment protocol is working better than we hoped." The modified treatment protocol. What Dr. Martinez didn't mention, what I hadn't told my family, was that the treatment protocol was actually my treatment protocol. For the past 4 years, while my family thought I was resting and exaggerating, I'd been working from my hospital bed, researching autoimmune disease mechanisms. My background was in biochemistry and immunology. I'd completed my PhD at Johns Hopkins before my diagnosis. When I got sick, I couldn't just accept the standard treatments that weren't working. So I started researching, collaborating with Dr. Martinez and her team on novel therapeutic approaches. 18 months ago, we'd identified a specific protein pathway that could be targeted to reduce autoimmune attacks without completely suppressing the immune system. We'd synthesized a compound, tested it in cell cultures, then animal models. 6 months ago, I'd become the first human trial participant. It was saving my life. And according to our data, it could save millions of others. The patent had been filed 3 months ago. The FDA fast-track approval process was underway. And yesterday, Dr. Martinez had received an email from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm that she'd forwarded to me with shaking hands. The Nobel Committee was considering our work for the prize in physiology or medicine. The announcement would be made in 2 weeks on October 7th, the same day as my family's big annual reunion finale dinner. "Have you told your family about the Nobel nomination?" Dr. Martinez asked. "No. Emily. They're at a party right now, Dr. Martinez. At a lake house. While I'm here." My cousin posted about my episode on social media. I showed her the photo. Her jaw tightened. "Your mother knows you're in the ICU with sepsis." "She does. She asked me not to worry everyone with hospital details." Dr. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. "The Nobel announcement will be broadcast live. If we're selected, and our contact says we're the front runners, every news outlet in the world will be covering it." "I know. Your family will find out." "Good," I said softly. The next 12 days passed in a blur of recovery and preparation. My sepsis cleared. My strength returned enough to be discharged. Dr. Martinez called every day with updates. The Nobel Committee had requested additional data, interviewed our collaborators, reviewed our clinical trial results showing an 83% improvement rate in autoimmune patients. "This is really happening," she said on October 5th. "Emily, we need to prepare a statement. The media will want to interview you." "I look like hell," I said. I'd lost 30 pounds from the sepsis. My hair was thin from medication. "You look like someone who's been fighting for her life while simultaneously revolutionizing medicine," Dr. Martinez corrected. The morning of October 7th, I woke at 5 a.m. and opened my laptop to the Nobel Prize livestream. Dr. Martinez called at 5:15. "I can't breathe. Are you watching?" "Yes." At 5:30 a.m. exactly, the Secretary General stepped up to the podium in Stockholm. The Nobel Assembly at Karolinska Institute has today decided to award the 2025 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine jointly to Dr. Sofia Martinez and Dr. Emily Castellano for their discoveries concerning targeted immunomodulation therapy for autoimmune diseases. My phone exploded. news outlets, research institutions, colleagues. I ignored all of it and watched as the Secretary General continued. Dr. Martinez and Dr. Castellano's groundbreaking work has fundamentally changed our understanding of autoimmune disease treatment. Their development of TIM-47 represents the most significant advance in 50 years. Early trials show remarkable efficacy across multiple conditions including lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and Crohn's disease. This discovery will save millions of lives. The news spread like wildfire. Within an hour, every major outlet had the story. 29-year-old lupus patient wins Nobel Prize for autoimmune breakthrough. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. At 8:47 a.m. it came. Mom? Emily? Is this real? Dad, why didn't you tell us? Jason, holy shit sis, you won the Nobel Prize? Rachel, OMG Emily, I had no idea you were doing research. Aunt Marie, I always knew you were smart, dear. I responded to none of them. Instead I called Dr. Martinez. They know. He paused. Your family's still expecting you at dinner tonight? As far as I know. Are you going? I thought about walking into that restaurant facing all those people who'd dismissed me. Yes. I'm going. Giovanni's was packed when I arrived at 7 p.m. I dressed carefully in a simple black dress. My Nobel Prize medal, couriered to me that afternoon, hung around my neck on its distinctive blue and gold ribbon. I decided they needed to see it, to understand this was real. The moment I walked through the door, the restaurant went quiet. Not just my family's section, the entire restaurant. Because by now everyone knew who I was. Oh my God, I heard Rachel whisper. She actually came. I walked to the family table, 65 faces turning toward me with expressions ranging from shock to shame. Emily. Mom stood up, her face pale. Sweetheart, we've been trying to reach you all day. I was busy, I said calmly. Press conferences. Interview requests. The usual Nobel Prize winner responsibilities. Aunt Marie stared at the medal around my neck. Emily, dear, we had no idea you were conducting research. You never mentioned. I mentioned it constantly, I interrupted. 4 years ago, I told you I was working on a research project with Dr. Martinez. You said I should focus on getting well instead of playing scientist. The table was silent. 3 years ago, when I missed Christmas because I was in the hospital with pneumonia, I was also analyzing the first cellular trial results. Jason, you called it another hospital thing. Jason wouldn't meet my eyes. And 18 days ago, when I was in the ICU with sepsis, a life-threatening infection, you had a party. Rachel, you posted photos calling it my episode and saying I was exaggerating. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Emily, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't ask. None of you asked. I looked around the table. Not once in 7 years did any of you say, Emily, tell me about your disease. Help me understand. Said you Googled. You decided. You dismissed. We thought you looked healthy, Mom's voice broke. The doctors said your numbers were stable. You thought I was exaggerating because I don't look sick enough for you. I pulled out my phone. Here. 7 years of data showing progressive organ damage. Would you like to see my surgical reports? My biopsy results. No one spoke. Aunt Marie, you told me I needed exercise and to stop eating gluten. I have an autoimmune disease that attacks my internal organs. That's not how this works. Aunt Marie was crying. I was a nurse. I should have known better. Yes, you should have. I turned to address the whole table. You all should have. But you didn't because invisible illness isn't dramatic enough. Because I didn't lose my hair or become wheelchair-bound, you decided I must be fine. Emily, please, Dad said. We made a mistake. But you won the Nobel Prize. We're so proud. Don't. The word came out sharp. Don't say you're proud of me now. You weren't proud when I was conducting this research. You weren't proud when I was fighting for my life while trying to save millions of others. You were embarrassed. You wished I would be quiet about my episodes and stop making family gatherings awkward. The entire restaurant was listening now. The Nobel Prize doesn't change what I've been through. It doesn't erase the times I was alone in the hospital while you were at parties. It doesn't undo the social media posts mocking my little hospital stays. What do you want from us? Jason asked quietly. You can't make this right, I said simply. You can't undismiss 7 years of suffering. You can apologize, Maybe someday I'll be ready to hear it, but you can't erase what you did. So you're just done with us? Rachel's voice was small. I'm done pretending your ignorance was innocent. I'm done making myself smaller so you can feel comfortable. I looked at each of them. I developed a treatment that will save millions of lives. I did that while you were telling me I was faking. I turned to leave, then looked back at Aunt Marie. By the way, that overdiagnosed disease you said I didn't really have? It almost killed me 6 times. I have permanent organ damage. And I just won the Nobel Prize for developing a treatment that will prevent other people from suffering the way I have. I'm not exaggerating, Aunt Marie. I never was. I walked out with every eye in the restaurant on me. Behind me, I heard my grandmother's voice. We failed that girl. 3 months later, I stood in Stockholm Concert Hall, the King of Sweden placing the Nobel medal around my neck. Dr. Martinez stood beside me, radiant and tearful. In the audience were people who mattered. Colleagues who'd supported my research, patients whose lives had been changed by TM47, friends who'd sat with me through hospital stays. My family was not there. I hadn't invited them. They'd continued reaching out. Letters, emails, flowers. Aunt Marie had written a 5-page apology. My parents had asked to meet to start over. I'd responded to none of it. During my Nobel lecture, I spoke about the invisible nature of chronic illness. About how millions of people are disbelieved because they don't look sick enough. I developed this treatment because I was running out of time, but also because I was tired of not being believed. This prize is validation for every patient who's been dismissed. Every person told their pain isn't real. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. That night, Dr. Martinez raised her glass to me. To the patient who refused to be silenced. To the doctor who listened, I countered. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. A photo of the family watching my Nobel lecture on TV, all of them crying. The message read, "We're watching. We hear you now. We're sorry we didn't hear you before." I looked at the photo for a long moment, then put my phone away and returned to the celebration. To the people who'd believed me when it mattered, who'd supported me when I was unknown and suffering. Some wounds heal. Some families deserve second chances. But some bridges, once burned, are meant to stay ashes. My little hospital stay had changed medicine. My episodes had won a Nobel Prize. My exaggeration had saved millions of lives. And I'd done it all without the people who should have been there from the beginning. That was my victory. That was my validation. And that, finally, was enough. I stood at the podium of Massachusetts General Hospital 6 months after Stockholm, addressing 200 medical students. Dr. Martinez had asked me to speak about patient advocacy and medical research. But I had a different message. How many of you have dismissed a patient's symptoms because they looked fine? I asked. Uncomfortable silence. Be honest. How many times have you heard drug-seeking or anxious or hysterical and stopped listening? Hands slowly raised. About half the room. I was that patient. Multiple doctors told me my symptoms were stress before I was finally diagnosed with lupus. By then, I had permanent organ damage that could have been prevented. I pulled up a slide showing my medical timeline. This is what medical gaslighting looks like. And it happens every single day. I showed them the messages from my family, the social media posts, the dismissals. This isn't just about my family. This is about a culture that doesn't believe invisible illness is real. That thinks suffering requires visible proof. A young woman in the front row raised her hand. Dr. Castellano, how do we do better? Listen, I said simply. When a patient tells you they're in pain, believe them. When they say something is wrong, investigate. Don't wait for them to win a Nobel Prize to take them seriously. After the lecture, dozens of students approached me. But one stood out, a young man with tears in his eyes. My sister has fibromyalgia, he said. Our family thinks she's exaggerating. After hearing you, I realize we've been doing to her exactly what your family did to you. I'm going home to apologize. Don't just apologize, I told him. Learn about her condition. Ask her what she needs. Show up. That night, I received an email from Aunt Marie. Another one. I'd deleted dozens without reading them. But something made me open this one. Emily, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I've gone back to school. I'm taking courses in chronic illness management and patient advocacy. I volunteer at a lupus support group now. I tell them my story, How I failed my niece, how my ignorance almost cost you your life. I'm trying to be better. Not for you. You owe me nothing. But for the next patient who walks into a room and isn't believed. I'm so sorry. Aunt Marie. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I replied, Aunt Marie, thank you for this. I'm not ready to rebuild our relationship and I may never be. But I'm glad you're using your experience to help others. That matters. Emily. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was acknowledgement that people could change even if that change came too late for us. Dr. Martinez called as I was closing my laptop. Turn on CNN. I did. There was my face on the screen and a headline. Nobel winner's family betrayal sparks national conversation about medical gaslighting. A panel of doctors was discussing how my story had changed their approach to patient care. A patient advocate was talking about the thousands of messages she'd received from people who'd been dismissed by their families, finally feeling validated. You started something, Dr. Martinez said softly. Something bigger than the treatment. He was right. TM47 would save millions of lives. But my story, our story, was changing how people understood invisible illness. It was giving voice to the dismissed, the doubted, the disbelieved. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother Jason. I know you probably won't respond. But I wanted you to know I started seeing a therapist. To understand why I dismissed you. Why I chose comfort over truth. I'm not asking for anything. Just wanted you to know I'm trying to be better. I didn't respond. But I didn't delete it either. Some bridges stay burned. Some relationships end and should stay ended. But sometimes the people who hurt us can become catalysts for change. Not in our lives but in the lives of others they'll meet. My family couldn't undo the past. But maybe they could help prevent the future from repeating it. That would have to be enough. Because I'd already won. Not just the Nobel Prize but something more valuable. The absolute certainty that I'd been right about myself all along.